our CLT, and it was canceled. So I said, oh, 12-1, now we're open. And hey, do you guys want to come with me? So here, I just put them to work. Okay.
I still lurk on AT chat, so don't feel
Me too. Me too. I think, well, I'm usually like lying with my 4-year-old trying to get him to fall asleep. And he's like, what are you doing? What's that light? Why is it still on, mommy? Who are you talking to? So, okay. Oh yeah. Now we're kind of sitting in a.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Now we're all on. So here is Brittany and Aaron. Do you want to hear about like what the AAC coaching position is, or what do you tell us?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Start there and then tell us how you do it.
Okay. I'll pass it over to them. What do you guys? Oh, sorry, I'm totally putting you on the spot.
You need a more defined question?
Yes.
Okay. How about what is AAC coaching? Start there.
Or what is it in your district? Like, how is it?
Yeah. How's it look for you?
Yeah. How does it look for you guys?
And in the AT town hall world, we call this being voluntold.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just like I was picked to moderate today.
Well, thank you for allowing us to join you. I totally am a Twitter lurker and follow along on all of the great conversations that occur and learn kind of behind the scenes from you guys. But AAC Coaching is a new role for us this year. We're both SLPs. Erin has a background also, or is an ATP, has an ATP.
I have my ATP.
Has her ATP. And this role came about as we know there's so much more to AAC than just handing out a device and doing a training. There's so much more ongoing coaching that's needed. So in our district, we have started this role, and we are providing training and coaching to staff members who support AAC users. And we also just started coaching families as well. Who am I missing?
Cool.
That's the nut and bolts of it.
What other questions do you
have? Well, it kind of
what does success look like for you, or what does it not look like for you, right? Especially if you guys are new to this, I think that's just always something that even though different workplaces will define it differently, right? Like they might call themselves AAC coaches, or it might be that they're AAC specialists or whatever, but most of the time we're engaging in coaching because there's nobody who's like in there full time in, like, it's not like you're in as a weekly service, right? Most of the time. And so like, what does that look like? And how do you define success when it's successful for you, or what makes you successful?
So
great question.
Yeah, it's so different depending on who we're working with. I think one of the benefits of this role is the independent work that we get to do beyond training. So we do typically start with a training just to make sure everybody has the same level of knowledge and uses the same language around best practices. And then that's really just the start of our process. Then we come out and we can meet with staff individually, talk about what their AAC implementation goals or needs are. We can work with them in their classroom. We've modeled lessons of how to incorporate AAC modeling into the lessons. We've classroom observations, and success looks like when the needle moves even just a little bit, when there's a carryover of happy parents, yes. Repeat customers could look like success. Yes. Like somebody who's like, oh, absolutely. you're helpful. Yep. You are valuable to me as a resource, and I'm gaining more confidence in my skills, or I tried something new. Sometimes in my classroom.
Even looks like the device is out.
Yep.
For the first time in the beginning of the day.
Or a staff member who was not modeling at all. It says, I modeled 3 words today during this particular lesson.
We just had an assistant actually who we did a 2-part training with this school team, because they have a lot of functional life skills, 2 functional life skills classrooms. And one of the assistants said, after our first session with you, I went back and I told the art teacher, no hand over hand, we don't touch them. We can show them on their device. We don't
Mhm.
move their hand for them. And so that
Nice.
to us felt very successful because we're like, yes,
Yep.
you know, just in that,
It
you know,
clicked.
it looks very
Yeah.
different all the time. And sometimes we're working literally at just getting the device out and learning how to transition throughout the school with the device. And sometimes we're working on things like how to support math instruction or literacy at the high school level. So
Yeah.
it does look very different. It keeps us on our toes.
And we have so many strong SLPs who are knowledgeable in AAC implementation and, also do some coaching with their teams, but we have the capacity to spend a lot more time working with teachers individually and in classrooms individually. And sometimes, and we've found that there's value with somebody else coming in and saying the same thing. Brittany and I were both building SLPs. I still have a caseload at a school now. And you're just, there's a different lens when someone comes in from the outside and says, these are the best practices around AAC. And these are the strategies that we use for this. And
Some third-party validation.
yeah,
Even when we know that they've heard it many times.
Yep.
Sometimes it's hard to sit at the IEP table and be a team member.
Yep.
And also be a coach. It can be challenging to manage that relationship dynamic with your coworkers, at least in my experience.
Another measurement.
Oh,
is-
and we have Marby Tamaro. Marby is an AT specialist here in Arlington and an OT, a longtime OT by practice. So
And another measurement of success, and this has happened at one school, is the principal has done some of the online professional learning so that
mhm.
he has foundational knowledge that's shared. The
That's
principal,
awesome.
yeah, it is really awesome. The principal's done all of the, one or two principals we have done all the project core modules. Which is,
Wow.
I know, isn't that?
As a former administrator, like that, so rarely.
That's
I mean, I was an elementary school assistant principal, but who had done that, but that was because it was my interest, not because I thought it was,
He also asked for a license of LAMP for his APS issued iPad. That's a measure of success. He's invited Brittany and Aaron back multiple times. He's
Every other week.
invited Lauren and I back. So he wants us in the building and he looks to us with questions and support for his work with the staff. So that's
And-
really huge.
and we've also heard from a lot of the SLPs saying, I'm so glad you guys are in this role. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that there's somebody else outside of this building or in addition to me saying these things that I'm saying and working with the staff on this because the
Time, the caseloads are
Mhm.
high in
Yeah.
the schools. So, and our
The
caseloads, I would say,
workload
are
too.
Yeah, and ours
Yeah.
are, our lead SLP is really advocating for manageable caseload workload numbers. So we're fortunate for that. But even with that, it's just a lot of extra time that's not documented in the IEP hours.
Cool. That I wish I could just like clone you and bring you here for like 6 months and help me set something like that up. Because that's exactly what we need here.
Trust your process.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Actually, Marby and I were just reflecting this morning because I found this old PowerPoint. Sorry, I don't even know which way to do my camera. I found this really old PowerPoint. I had to go in and I was just looking for one. So I just picked the top one. And then we reflected, we've been doing this work for 7 years, more than like intensively.
Doing this
Yeah.
10 years, but
Marby's been doing this for 10 and we've both together been doing this for 7 years intensely to move the needle about core vocabulary and basic AAC implementation strategies, modeling, like having the device out and ready, modeling on the device were our two, we started there. And now we've sort of made like what we call the compass. And our due north on the compass is have the device out. And these are our guiding principles, I call them. Have the device out and ready. If you don't have a due north, then you can't model, attribute meaning, or have wait time, which are the other, seminal practices to getting AAC going in the classroom. So it's just like, it was just a reminder, systems change takes a really long time. We've got over 50 SLPs in our school division, which some of you have more, some of you have a few less.
One.
One, but you
One.
know, it's hard. It's really hard to change the mind of 50 people who need to lead in this area and be the go-to person in their building, because they're the boots on the ground. So we started with our SLPs and then our special ed teachers, both at pre-K level, because these are just good language teaching strategies, because it's not all about the device, it's how do we teach language. So that's been a big push too for our earliest learners, and also our students who are L learners, our students who are learning English, because these are good language strategies. So I got an awesome team, you guys. I'm so lucky. Look at these brilliant women. So I told you it was Bring a Friend Day.
Perfect. We need more friends.
We do. We all need.
I love to hear that it was 7 and 10 years too, because we've been in building now since May. So my 2-year plan is now a 6-year plan to begin with.
That's right.
But,
That's more reasonable.
I'm
That's right.
happy to hear 7 and 10. Not that I really want it to take that long, but
Well, and we certainly haven't ironed out all of our wrinkles in our process. It changes
All the time.
all the
daily.
time, all the
Yeah.
time. What we pictured back in August when we both first started looks a lot different than what we're doing. So that's part of it, is the flexibility and adaptation to the feedback and what needs to be done.
you mentioned LAMP. Is everybody using LAMP, or is that just one of the principal just picked that one?
Not everybody is using LAMP Words for Life. There's a good chunk of students at that particular school
Oh,
that
that's okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, we do subscribe to like a language system first approach, like try this and then modify from that if we can. I know Chris Bouguet has talked a lot about that. Have you guys heard of that before? Okay. So we start there because it is a robust system. We've been very lucky that we have administration that's taken Project Core, that is listening to our recommendations and is really supportive. We also have a very active parent group that's helped move the needle forward, because they've really advocated for more service, more positions available, more financial resources to be made available, because they really, one of their big stances a year or so before the pandemic, they were like, we want our teacher to have a modeling device. 2 years before the pandemic. We started a committee with them. So now I guess it's been 4 years that we've been doing that. And we were allowed to put aside some money, and now all of our pre-K special ed teachers, all of our classroom-based program staff, both assistants and teachers, gen ed teachers, special ed teachers, SLPs, OTs and PTs who are supporting students in whatever setting, who use AAC, all receive a copy of their students' application so they can model in their language, their AAC language.
That is so awesome.
It is awesome, but it's a lot of money and it's not doable for everybody. So it feels like bad saying it. I mean, that is what we're doing, but it's really hard to replicate unless you have, unless you can do that.
I have 4 iPads so far. We're doing good. It's all grant system.
4 more than we had.
Yep. My SLP is saying 4 more than we had. You're right.
I think one of the things that people have to remember right now is there is still a boatload of money of ESSER funds out there. This is the time to advocate for getting that stuff, because schools have not used, believe me, schools have not used all of that funds, and there's so much out there. And so, and especially when you're talking about getting an iPad and like an app that you don't necessarily have to renew, like that can be, that is like very doable with that money. Also, you don't need any other justification other than assistive technology. Like a lot of ESSER funds is tied to learning loss and things like that. But one of the things that it's tied to is providing assistive technology. So use like, go in and ask the powers that be, do we have ESSER funds? I would like to use them for this, right? Like there should still be a lot of money. There's no way that most districts have spent all of their ESSER funds yet.
Beth, do you have a specific
Beth.
part of either ESSER 2 or 3 that cites that assistive technology stuff?
Yes, it's on, like we did it, we put it on, I mean, I'm not telling you to do this because to buy lesson picks, but we put ESSER funds lesson picks stuff on there, and we do have it specifically, yep, it's right in there, providing. So one of the things, ARP funds, I'm gonna put the link in the chat, may be used for purchasing educational technology for students that aids in regular and substantive educational interaction between students and their instructors. But assistive technology is in there also somewhere. And if you go into, I'm going to put the list, I'm going to put the link that's from our Lesson Picks website. Again, I'm not saying this because you need to go and buy Lesson Picks. I'm saying this is information for anything, right? That you want.
No, I knew you had done work to post it, and I just didn't remember where it was.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
assistive
that.
technology is also very specifically mentioned. Let me see if I can find. Well, it's under the meeting the needs of children. ARP ESSER funds, here it is, may be used for meeting the needs of children, and that includes children with disabilities. And within that, there is language around assistive technology. And right, I mean, it is.
Beth, I think that's a great idea, because before, when we had stimulus funds, this is how we first started getting iPads. Like when we
Exactly.
started our personalized learning, one-to-one devices for some students. That's how we started. And then we were able to buy some things that were able to jumpstart some of these projects.
Yeah, exactly.
And once you had the licenses, like we use a multiple device manager.
Right.
So if a teacher, let's say, no longer has that student in their class, that was the Gen Ed 4th grade teacher, now the student's in 5th grade, we can just reassign the app to the Gen Ed 5th grade teacher through that with a click of a button, which is great.
And are you guys doing that assigning, or you guys have to have IT do the assigning?
IT does the assigning, but we just, we keep a running list of who has the apps, and then we pull all the apps from people who transition and leave, or when students are transitioning grades, and then we get the new, it's a lot to manage. But when we get a new student or a new team, and then we kind of do it like bulk, and we send him all the names, and it's instantly there. So
yeah, and there's over $13 billion in ESSER funds. I guarantee your district has not. It's like not millions, which is what was in stimulus funds. It's billions.
Billions, yeah, wow.
Right.
I think they can transfer some of that to over 21 centers.
There may be some. There may be
I'm
some.
now that you said that, I'm gonna go look.
There actually may be some. And actually, like I'm even looking, here's something from Wisconsin Department of Education. And so investing in educational technology, which includes assistive technology. So that, again, there's there's a lot of that in there. I'm just going to put this link in there too. And this is an old link. It's like from 2020, but again, it's still like what was determined that it could be used for is still very valid.
And a few other people have tossed some information in here too.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Our district also used the ESSER funds for purchasing Learning Ally for all of our students who are reading, struggling readers and writers who are reading below grade level. I think they quoted us, we had 3,000 students that were struggling with reading, either not making benchmarks, accessing our multiple tiered system of supports for reading. So they were able to get a district-wide license at the elementary level.
Yeah,
So
we're fortunate. Yeah, we're fortunate in the state of Florida. The Department of Ed pays for Learning Ally access for anybody in the state.
That's
So
awesome.
it got rolled into, I think, either Department Ed, somebody else. The money did not come out of individual districts' pockets for Learning Ally, and it's one of those, I think, very underutilized supports that can be accessed 18, 21 and up too.
Yep. Yep.
That those kids
Melissa,
could
Mr. Markey,
yeah.
Is that true? Like in our state of Virginia, the state has purchased it for students with IEPs, not just students who are reading below grade level. Can you clarify, in Florida, is it for students just with IEPs who can have access, or is it for all students reading below grade level?
It is students who have a print disability. And that print disability definition is very gray in that it can be an IEP, it can be a 504, or it can be an other designated print disability.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Cool.
Provide documentation for that, like with Bookshare.
yeah, so usually the special ed teacher can be the certifying digital rights manager, and they can just certify, or the teacher. I mean, I guess it could be like a reading. It used to be.
There used to be more stringent guidelines about who could be a certifier for Learning Ally and for Bookshare. They've kind of broadened those a little bit. I tend to have our teachers submit and then I certify at the district level, but I'm a much smaller, like I'm a 30,000 kid district, so it's a little bit smaller. I mean, we have hundreds of kids using it, but and that way I keep they all submit on a Google form all the information that's needed for Learning Ally or Bookshare. So I have submission numbers, and then I can get usage data from Learning Ally and Bookshare, but I can show, the teacher requested it on this date and we added it on this date and we sent them their login information on this date. Just kind of keeps a clean picture for me, and that Google form is open. So like I've had parents submit and request for it. I've had ESE teachers. I've had the gen ed teacher. We did 2 years ago, we did a huge like summer reading push. And all of our students actually get library cards through the district. Like they have I don't know, they worked it out so that basically every one of our students gets a county library card. So we kind of did that same, like we send them home. There's a release of information that goes between the two of them, and they basically deliver boxes of library cards to our schools that get sent home. So we at the same time did a push for summer reading. We were like, hey, there's about 80 bazillion ways you can get access to summer reading materials. Like here are a few. And then for kids that we knew needed Learning Ally or Bookshare, we showed them, here's how you could use the Libby app. If you're getting a book through the library, if that doesn't work for you, hey, look, we've got Learning Ally. Like it was like, here's your menu of choices for summer reading. Because I think the state kind of did a huge summer reading push, and it just so happened that we were primed to really push for Learning Ally and Bookshare at the same time. So yeah, the library card thing was a year and a half like workout, but now every year anybody who wants it gets a library card. We just send them home to the parents with information, and I think that's a huge step forward, and I would encourage anybody to start working. I mean, our media services folks, myself and some other folks, really worked with our district library to be like, they needed like a parent signature or something like that, and we just kind of included it on one of our forms, and it like during the emergency card process, I think. And so they bulk, they drop, that's one of the best days ever. They drop like boxes of library cards every year, and they're so all the kids, yeah, it's super fun. Just, I mean, anything we can do to make reading not laborious and not this chore, especially for kids who already don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best thing ever to go to a kid and show them, whether it's Learning Ally or the public library, be like, here's how you search for a book that you like. I don't care what you search for, like make it school appropriate, obviously, but like Want to search about basketball? Sure, let's go find a book about basketball. I don't care. Let's find something fun. Yeah, I want you to learn to read, but like, let's find something you're actually interested in.
I love that. That is like the best thing ever. And then that pulls them into the library and they get exposed to all these other things that are in the library and available to them.
Yeah, because a lot of times our parents weren't able to get them to the library, to show the ID, to get the whatever. And, you know, we teach our probably 4th or 5th grade and up. Here's how you set it up to do it online. Like, you don't have to physically go to a library if you don't have a way to get there. Like, okay, we'll make that work. But yeah, I think them having that library access, in addition to, obviously it doesn't work for everybody. Some kids still need Learning Ally and Bookshare, but I think that has helped tremendously in just our literacy engagement as a whole.
That is totally awesome.
Did you partner with your like library service people, or how did you get that?
Yeah, it was, we started the discussions with at that point, I think she was director of media services, our internal school board person, who then we reached out to the public library system and kind of started this ongoing, like, okay, what would you need to be able to do that? And do we already have that? Or do we need to adjust how we do it? But yeah, it was reaching out and engaging with them because we want to make sure that they were getting the information they needed, which is basically like parent permission and yes, your kid actually resides in this county. And yet at the same time, we have most of that information already. So just making sure we were doing that. So yeah, it was myself, one other person from our office, and then the media services director for the district, and then the actual county library folks.
That's great. Look at you just
I think that is the most brilliant thing ever. And I'm trying to figure out how I can apply it to here now.
I can't take all the claim for it, but it was super awesome to see, you know, that the library, obviously it was a win for them. It's a PR win for one, and two, you know, it's just a win to get more readership and more usage in their libraries. And it was just logistics. It was just the logistic, like, okay, how do we do this? What do we have? What release form would you need? And again, that's why it took so long, because nothing is ever decided quick when you have multiple people involved and agencies involved. But again, and now we've got it. And so every year it just happens. Like we have to, yeah, I think like as a regular county citizen, I have to renew my library card every year. And instead of renewing them, we just have this, I think we may have paid something or got a grant or something. Like they just issue brand new cards every year. We just don't even try. So they get them in September and we start school in August. So there's about a month leeway while we make sure we've got enough of our roster of kids, and it's 30,000 kids. So it's not like a small lift, but then they just reissue them. And then of course, if they lose them or something else happens, we've had a couple kids where we've, like, the parents have gone to the library and taken care of it, or we've reached out if it just wasn't possible for the parents to get there. But that's something even you could probably do with your agency and the adults and the local library, and just be like, hey, you know, and I think one of the great benefits is our libraries have so much more than here's a paper book. Like all of those other magazines, things that we don't necessarily have access to in our school libraries that are high interest, videos, music, like tons of things. Books that are
audiobooks. Sorry, audiobooks. Yeah.
Yeah. If you say that to a kid, they're like, what do you do with tape? Why would you have tape?
Or
they don't
and then
understand that.
A lot of them have 3D printing in there too, and that can just lead a whole nother path.
Yeah. So
and the
I
community
would
services that are there for the
encourage.
parents.
Yep. So and there's a lot of times where you know, it's just the parent doesn't have the option to necessarily, like, they just don't have transportation, or they're working 3 jobs or whatever life circumstances. But even if we connect them to the digital services, even if that's as far as we get for the kid, then we've got kids that maybe aren't eligible for whatever reason for Learning Ally and Bookshare, but could access all the books that are there. And like our district has things like Tumble Books and some other resources on their website that they can get to. But this is just another means of great access. And the more I had a kid that was like give me every WWE wrestling magazine ever. I'm like, okay, don't have a large supply of those internally. Like, you know, but if that's the print he was willing to engage in and we could talk about it and we could read it, I learned a lot about wrestling that I never knew and didn't really need to know.
I just think about one of my daughter's school friends, and they were, I'll use underprivileged, and she and her younger sister would walk to the library every single day to do their homework on the computer that was there, and everything else. And how many more people are you reaching by doing that? It's just unfathomable. Okay, anybody else have anything for the good of the group? This has been a good session today. All right, then I'm going to backtrack and say, okay, that Lauren and crew talked about your staff, and you mentioned your families. How has this worked with your families? The AAC coaching worked with your families. I'm going to loop us back.
Okay. I was just trying to type some answers about funding and.
Oh, okay.
Our
Well,
system.
that's important too. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. No, I think we're good. I
I'm a
put that
bit
in the chat.
I'm a little bit
The
behind
information
on the
about
chat.
funding. But like I said, we had a really strong advocacy from our special education advisory committee and our bosses who we've been really our directors of special education are our bosses. And we've really been working on educating them about what AAC is and what core vocabulary is and what it means to be effective. What are you looking for as administrators when you do walkthroughs in classrooms, and what is modeling? Like, what are the best practices that SLPs are practicing at the top of their license doing? You know, what does it look like in a classroom? So we had a lot of support from them. And so they kind of pulled out some of the SLP budget, and you guys are 4 days a week now. Yeah, they started as 3 days a week, and now they're both 4 days a week because they added parent coaching.
Yeah, we have 1 day a week of parent coaching.
Cool.
Each.
Each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do parent coaching on Wednesdays, and that is newly rolled out as of February.
Do they come in, or do you meet them virtually, or do you go out?
So far, most of them have been virtually. We actually have a parent coming in Wednesday in person. They have the option, whatever they're most comfortable with. So Teams, meeting here at our
Microsoft Teams.
Oh yeah, Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
Central
At our
office.
central office, or if transportation is a challenge, we can work. We haven't had to yet, but we have the ability to work with building administrators to maybe find a space at their home school.
Nice.
We're not going into the home
Nice.
at this point.
But if they come in on Teams, then they can say like, here's our setup, and kind of show you virtually. Yeah, that hasn't happened really because you're just starting. Yeah.
And it's also really open-ended. We have parents, we've met with parents that are brand new to AAC, and we've started with a training session for them. And then we try to do more than one meeting when possible. We also have parents that have been big advocates for their students in AAC for years and are well versed in best practices. So we just will have conversations with them around what their needs are right now or what their challenges are. And then we have parents that meet with us weekly because that's what they find helpful, and that's been going really well, actually. So it's kind of been however we designed it to be. We don't have like a standard practice for that yet, which seems the open-endedness seems to be what makes it work the best.
And it's nice, like we have a family of a preschool student who just got a device that we're meeting with weekly, and to the school team, they're like, oh my gosh, you're meeting with them weekly? That's so much. Like that's kind of crazy. But for us, it's perfect because we need to meet with them weekly. You know, they're so new to it. They're so enthusiastic. But to the school team, it is a lot. You know, if they were asking to meet with the school team weekly, it would be a big ask of them. So it's really nice that we have the flexibility to get to meet with them weekly and talk through.
One of the things that we do make sure that we do when we're meeting with all parents is we set clear, defined boundaries. As you know, we're not on the school team in this role. We're We're here to support what you need at home, what's happening at home. Any concerns related to the IEP or use of the device at school is best met by the IEP team, the school-based team. But we do keep open communication between the two. So we let the school team know that we're meeting with parents. We'll kind of touch base with them, keep them up to speed as to what we talked about, information that's relevant to them for their purposes at school and vice versa.
Yeah, we do not attend IEP meetings at this time. And because we're a service for the staff members and not, I mean, of course it's for the students, but it's not written into any IEPs that we are part of the team.
Right. That's just awesome though. And I can't wait to see if I can figure something out here, which I don't think I'm going to be happening tomorrow, but.
Yeah, Kelly, I'm looking at your message also.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kelly's got a good message.
Fangirl moment, Kelly. I've seen you present at ATIA a bunch of times and your sessions are so much fun. So I'm excited to be in the same virtual room with you. We do keep track of all our meetings. It's in our Outlook calendar. That's the strategies the strategy that we use, right? Because it's kind of happens innately. We put our meetings in there, so then it's also our running record. But yeah, that is key in kind of justifying any role outside of, standard. I mean, by HR, delineation, I'm a speech language pathologist, so I can be put back out into school at any time. So
yeah, and I'm paid by the IDEA grant in this role currently. So we've had to, as a district, I think, get a little creative. Our assistive technology team is amazing, and they've laid the foundation for the understanding with our administration, our high up administration, that the need is there, and yeah, so they've kind of just made it work to pay us in a way that is allocated from various different places.
Well, thank you, first of all. And I know that when I talk to a lot of people that are in AT or AAC consultative roles, they talk about, we need additional time. I only have 2 days a week, and then I have another caseload, and both are full-time jobs and all those things. And when I mention to people that you really need to be tracking your time, their eyes usually roll, because they're like, that's one more thing for me to do. But I've seen it work on all different levels. Irene and I used to work at the project where Tammy works at now. And one of the things and so it was a state level resource project, and they wanted to grow our team from 4 people. Well, if you counted division people, we had 7 people statewide to 12 people statewide. And so for 2 school years, we kept like immaculate track of, we had all kinds of check sheets for even phone calls, like what kind of phone calls we were taking. Were we taking phone calls from families? Were we taking phone calls related to tech support, IEP, implementation? I forget what everything was on that checklist. But after about 2 years of data collection, when the team grew, and that actually might have been before Irene. That might have been how we got Irene.
I was going to say that data is so important. We did even a short time study when we were looking at trying to grow our team and to justify it. So I asked for, like, at beginning it was 2 weeks, and we ended up doing 4 weeks of data, and it was a Google form initially. That it was just, I tried to make it as streamlined as possible, but it basically showed that, like, we needed the 2 more days we asked for, because it documented every minute, and like we tried as closely as we could to document the time. And now we actually use a system. It's the same system our therapists do their documentation in, that happens to sweep for Medicaid school reimbursement, but ours are all listed as non-billable services. Because of how we're paid off the grant, so we can't double dip and be reimbursed by Medicaid too. But we use that same system, because then we can pull, we spent 2,682 hours on whatever. And when it comes time to justify more people, which I'm continually trying to do, that time data, even if you can do small snapshots of time and effort, I think is huge.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because like we do have a record of our meetings and our when we're doing trainings and things like that, but a lot of our time is spent behind the scenes too, preparing for those things.
Mm.
And we should keep kind of,
Yeah, technically next year it's gonna be 1 day less
yeah,
when you look at days.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very good point for us to continue to advocate for the amount of time we need.
Yeah,
Yeah,
also
because
administrators don't know all the things that we're all involved with. They, and it's not at their fault, but they don't know what they don't know.
right.
And
Mhm.
so one of the ways to educate them, and I've even had administrators that were, therapy when I worked at the university and I worked out of the OT department, my administrator was like, "Are you sure you're giving us 20 hours a week?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure." And
Really?
to the point,
More
yeah,
like 60.
probably the most degrading thing that ever happened to me as a doctoral student was having to check the time clock in, like all of the students that were, undergrad working. And so I said, now you're going to see what 20 minutes gives you. So there would be a little bit of the like, uh-oh. And it was like, you want to keep me in a meeting for 6 hours?
Yeah.
That's 14 hours left to do work on the grant. And so people need to really learn what they're asking for and what's behind things. When I'm in meetings for individual kids, I often will put together that roles and responsibilities matrix. And when people start talking about, well, I spent an hour last week doing that, goes on the list. And I try and sit next to whoever is the highest level administrator. So they see all the things that are being written down. These are all the things, all the little bits and pieces that make it work or not work for individual student services. And so they get start getting an idea, and they also get an idea of I think, better questions to ask when you inform them that way. So just my 2 cents.
Can I jump in real quick?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I just wanted to say, I think we all need to be really careful about some of our job responsibilities too. I think being in assistive technology, you get pulled into a lot of different areas. And I think that's by nature, we're curious people, and we often say yes when really we should say no to things. And so I have, really, we have a new administrator that is overseeing our department. And so I've been really this year kind of heavily hitting hard. These are not things that are related to students. These are maybe just general overarching technology type things that just because I have the knowledge, I've stepped in and doing, or because I want to collaborate on some of that stuff. I feel strongly we should be collaborating with our tech departments, and that's really helped our district get a lot of things. But I think we also tend to get sucked into things that way too. So, just being cognizant of that at all times. And this year I've hit that no button more than not. And people tell me I'm always saying yes to things, but I don't think they realize the things that get asked of me, and how often I really have chosen, because I think it is a choice to say no, but with that explanation of, this is why not. It's taking away from me servicing students, or I need to be in the classroom coaching more. I can't do that right now. So it's not, no, I just don't want to be a team player and do it. It's no, this is the reason why. And I think that has freed up a little time for me this year. Especially moving forward. So, when you're tracking your time, really be careful and think hard about those other things you get pulled into.
Mm-hmm. And that's so true about building capacity. I'm so glad that you say that, because we've worked really hard on building capacity for accessibility, but we're kind of like, keep recommending the same thing. Like, did you check the CAST website, or have you gone to, there's that great week-long conference that CAST puts on in the summer, and we've recommended our administrators to go to that, and some of our tech folks, because when it comes to adopting new curriculums, that's happening. And then they're saying, okay, assistive technology, can you give us wording for the RFP? And I'm like, look, we said, I'm looking right at Marby. Yep, it's right here on the CAST website. We'll just copy it over for you. You've had the resource, so it's that building capacity. So you're not the only one that holds the information or can answer their question is sort of part of saying no too.
And,
to be
and
able
for
to-
us too, it has been working. So my position, I'm called a program support teacher, and we have lots of different program support teachers in our district. We have academic program support teachers, we have autism program support teachers. And when I go into classrooms, I work really closely with those people because that's their position. And when we are having problems with engagement or teachers not really teaching anything, that's not my job to come in and coach them and work with them. I can be a part of that conversation and that team, but I've been trying harder to pull those people in because they are truly, I mean, they're the teachers, they're the ones that should be doing it. I'm the speech language pathologist who's coming in and supporting that communication device. So it's not even just like the technology aspects of things. It's really taking a look at who is offering supports in your district and make sure you're utilizing all of them fully.
Yeah, this is Marby. I agree with that. We really run into that sometimes, and I think all four of us have run into this, that we get called in for coaching or assistive technology, but when we're in there and we're doing support and some assessment, we realize there are other issues. And you're totally right. It would be easy to say, oh, well, this is what needs to happen, because the kind of things that we would recommend can't happen because there's foundational things along the lines of what you just mentioned, like classroom management, what kind of curricular supports they're using, like all of those things that are more specific to instructional specialists, from content areas or from behavior or from
Even the physical setup. of the room.
autism, right? Autism, low incidence, physical setup of the room. Like there's all these things, and you're totally right that you have to make a conscious effort, because we feel so responsible for things not working right that we can see it all, but you're right on that we have to like step aside and say, this is what I can do, and I'm going to either consult with these other people or alert them and pull them in, because that needs to be addressed too, but it's not something I can do, because then I can't do all these other things.
Right.
Yep. And I think what has happened is I've spent a lot of time coaching the other program support teachers on assistive technology, so that when they're going into these classrooms and supporting, we're getting more referrals because of it, because they now know what to look for and they know what my role is on the team. And so, I mean, that's been another added benefit just to working with all of those different people collaboratively, because they're just, I mean, you're right, there's behavior issues, there are just, a whole host of things that really truly, again, I can help support, but there are other people that can also do that to free me up. So, it's just something that I've had to I call it my come to Jesus moment. Like, I just can't do it all, even though sometimes it's easier for me to do it all. Sometimes in the end, it doesn't free me up to do my job responsibilities. And so, and then kind of coming full circle back to having some of those administrators doing like the project core modules and stuff, a lot of times some of those difficult conversations of what supports are needed in the classroom, your administrators need to be a part of, because it is bigger than maybe, I don't know what you call them, but our program support teachers. And so we need somebody, because we need time to do that training. We need time to coach that staff. We need time with the paraprofessionals in those classrooms. And if our admin have a better understanding of AAC or assistive technologies, then I think they are more supportive of finding money to either add extra time or to release people from maybe mandatory meetings and stuff like that. So, and then you have other allies, you have those other program support teachers that can help go to that admin and say, yes, this is very much needed. So you kind of create allies in your coworkers that have a similar role to yours.
Well, today has been an awesome day. We are at 12:56. Any more? Anybody else have anything else? That didn't quite come out right, but
But I do have a nice selection of links open now to do some reading after this.
exactly.
I know, always that, me too. Well, and Mike's not here, so we don't have like an Amazon list of books, so.
No, but if you save the chat, you can get back to those links. So.
I think I have something, you guys, I could really quickly share. I have it all pulled up. I'm going to screen share. Since most of you are interested in AAC, I'm going to move my microphone over.
Ooh. What did we take to the circuit board?
Yeah, hold on, I got my microphone came out. Get it working again. It's been glitchy. Okay, so this is, we've been talking about some of the bulk switch key guards. This is it, and it's not completely assembled yet. I've been working on putting it together. This is an RFID reader, so sort of like what you have in your ID badges, maybe at school. And here I have an RFID card. It's got the word drink programmed on it.
Drink.
And when I swipe it, so eventually the case will be over the top of it. And when you swipe it,
Drink.
it will say the word that's programmed on the card. So there are like little sticker tags. You can put them on actual items. You can put pictures on these RFID cards, like lesson pick symbols. I have little tags that you can attach to different objects. So there's lots of different RFID tags. And so the case was all 3D printed. And then I bought all the separate parts, and all of the directions are on the Volkswitch website. So it's called the Voice It.
So when I put mine together, that's sitting right over here in a box with all its parts, I can call you for tech support.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I've had lots of little
Yeah.
glitches with putting it together, but
Yeah.
it's almost done. I'm just missing 4 bolts to put it together that I'm going to go pick up today. So
That is so awesome.
Well, I
it
definitely
is
need
very
to
similar to the
project.
Prox Talker, definitely.
It's, yeah, and it's like, I don't know what it cost you for parts, but it was somewhere between 180 and 240 for all my parts.
Yeah,
So
I would say probably around 150 to 180, something
Yeah.
like that.
and the Prox Talkers are over 1,200. So, or at least the one that we were looking at. So
Wow.
I'm excited. You'll have to let me know how it works, because I'm really excited to put it together and try it with
Well,
somebody.
it's all working. It's just not assembled. So I'm pretty
Right.
excited that it's all working, and I've gotten to that point. So like
Yeah.
I said, I just need those 4 bolts to put it together. So pretty cool.
That is awesome. All right. Anybody else for the good of the crew here? No? Well, it has been a joy spending Monday at lunch with all of you. I hope you all have a great week, and I'm going to kick this back to Naomi if we need anything else.